Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Good Vibes with Yaya. And today we're talking all about astrology and we breaking it down to the T, honey, because I don't understand it and I know there's people out there who don't understand it either. Today I'm joined by someone who I consider an astrology expert, the one, the only, founder of Lil Zodiac Blog, Khaci. Now before we get started, you already know what I need you to do. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at Good Vibes with Yaya. All right, perfect. So let's get started. So tell me why you started Lil Zodiac Blog.
So the reason why I started Lil Zodiac Blog, I really didn't even intend for it to be what it is now. It really just started with doing daily horoscopes on my real Instagram. And so when people kind of took a following to that, I was like, okay, maybe this could be, something bigger than that. So that's really how Lil Zodiac Blog started. It was not supposed to be what it was today. It started off as literally just sharing my love for astrology with my sisters, with my friends, and it just turned to this huge thing. So it's crazy to even really think about it.
So tell me about your love for like astrology as a whole. Like when did that start? Because I've noticed a couple people that were always into it in high school, but then when I got to actually after I graduated college in 2018, I feel like I've seen it way more.
Right.
Just tell me like how you got into it, when you got into it, and stuff like that.
There's definitely been a huge influx of people like into astrology nowadays, especially with Instagram and Twitter. I think it's just really a coming of age thing that people have gotten into. But I've really loved astrology since I was little. My mom would always have these little books around, and I would try to be grown and try to read them. And they was talking about how it would be if you were a Leo and you dated a Sagittarius. So I just always found it interesting, probably since elementary school, honestly. My mom always talked about it. She was very into her Aquariusness. So me growing up around it with my mom having a love for astrology kind of made me have a love for astrology. So it kind of just build from there.
Okay. And what's your favorite part about astrology as a whole?
I think my favorite part about astrology is that it is relatable and it is kind of like a taboo topic. It is a conversation starter. Some people have their feelings toward, it's just not real, it's fake. And other people are like so devoted to astrology. So I just think that is something that always can, be a conversation piece, can bring people together, and you can relate to it. Anybody can relate to it, even if it's like the smallest little thing. People are like, girl, that's just because I'm a Leo. It's just certain things like that. I really love just the togetherness of astrology.
And then you mentioned about the topic just being relatable and about the accuracy. Like, I used to people always used to be like, oh my gosh, you're such a Libra. And I'm like, no, that's just a sign. Like, it doesn't really have anything to do with personality. Like, I never took it serious. I just thought it was like what people would just say. Cause I felt like so many of the personality traits with each sign were like generic. It's like anybody can be like wanting attention. Like, cause I'm an only child. So people used to say, oh, you're a Libra, like you always want attention, blah. I'm like, no, I'm an only child. That's why I always want attention. Like that,
right.
I'm that, right? So I just never took it serious. But then somebody started giving me in more detail certain personality traits that really fit me. And I was like, like this might be kind of accurate. So like, how accurate do you really think it is?
So I tell anybody that astrology should not be an end all be all. Like anything, I don't think anything should really be an end all be all except God. To be honest, I don't think astrology is as accurate as you want it to be honest, because there are so many different factors that's involved into it. A lot of things that you do read can be generic. You won't really get the full scope of anything until you do like a full chart reading, and then you get to know the different levels of yourself, your different signs, your different planets. You get what I'm saying? That now can encompass you as an individual person rather than you as a sun sign as a whole. So again, astrology can be accurate, but it can only be as accurate as you make it. I wouldn't say it's an end all be all. And if they say stay away from Sagittarius, that you should never talk to a Sagittarius a day in your life, I just think, it molds to who you are. You shouldn't take it how it is. But it's interesting. There are things that are going to be true about who you are as a person, but there's more in-depth details that you need to go in about to really focus on who you are.
So I've noticed that you've reached 5,000 followers.
Yes,
You. That's amazing. So, like, how
thank
did you
you.
feel when you noticed that?
Honestly, it was a shock just getting 100 followers. It was a shock getting 1,000 followers. You know, I'm constantly forever grateful for any type of support that I get, whether it's one retweet, whether it's one like, whether it's 100. You know, I'm forever grateful for that. So 5,000 kind of seemed like unreal. It still kind of seems unreal in a sense. I don't really know how to feel. I'm very grateful. That's all I know how to say. I'm very grateful for it because I never would have thought that I would even be here again with Lil Zodiac Blog. And I know there is a lot more that we want to make happen with Lil Zodiac Blog. So I'm very grateful. It was a huge, like, dang, y'all really love me type of thing, or love or really support me. And I just am forever grateful for that.
So
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that you put a lot of different content out every single day when it comes to dating or just the signs as a whole. So like, how do you come up with that different content? Do you have like a book? Do you just research? Like, how do you come up with that?
It depends on what the content is, honestly. More factual things I kind of get from my knowledge of astrology. Like if I was to explain the characteristics of a Leo woman or a Leo man, or, you know, just basic factual things like what a moon sign is, you know, that kind of just comes from me wanting to just share that knowledge. Just why I kind of call Lil Zodiac Blog like an educational astrology page, because I try to inform as well as like entertain.
Right.
So my more entertainment based content, it really has to flow. I can't force it, because I've noticed when I tried to force it, it was terrible. So it either comes from like a dream or a conversation. For instance, one of my posts was about what you were in a past life, like what the signs were in a past life. And that came from a conversation that I had in a group chat with my friends. We were just talking and they were like, yeah, I think I was a cat in a past life or something like that. And it just literally was like, that's what it is. And so it just comes naturally. It can come from conversation, everyday life, when I'm in the shower, when I'm whatever, it just comes. So that's how my content comes about.
Okay, that's great. And so you mentioned moon sign. Can you go into detail about that? Because that part I'm very, very confused about, like the moon sign and the sun sign. Like, what exactly is that?
Okay, so a lot of people, when people say like astrology is so vague, it's not specific, that's mainly when you're looking at your sun sign. So your sun sign is the sign that if someone was to ask you, what's your sign? You would say a Libra. That is your sun sign. It just depends on when your birthday is, what day it falls on in a month of the year, all that good stuff. So you have the big three, which is your sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign. So a lot of people go based on that. And your moon sign, I personally like to go by my moon sign. Like when I'm reading horoscopes or whatever, I read my moon sign, and I recommend everybody to read their big three to get a full scope of what you're going through. But your moon sign is your moods and emotions, so how you carry yourself emotionally. And that can be completely different from how you carry yourself egotistically, which is your sun sign. Your sun sign is your identity, your ego. So for instance, I'm a Leo with my sun sign, so ego is very big to me, persona is very big to me, but emotionally, I'm an Aries. So I assert myself in a very aggressive way sometimes. I don't like the word aggressive. It kind of has a negative connotation, but a passionate way is how I assert myself, especially with, emotions. Like when I get frustrated, I probably will sound more angry than what I am. It's just passion, but that's, that that kind of goes with my Aries moon. And then your rising sign is pretty much the energies that you put out. Like the simplest way I could put it is if someone never knew you, your rising sign is what energies you put out to make them think they know who you are. So if someone be like, I think you are a Libra, your rising sign probably exhibits those traits. For instance, I had a reading done and the girl, never talked to her before. And the first thing she said, she's like, are you an earth sign? And I'm like, no, I'm actually a Leo. But it's funny because my rising sign is a Capricorn. So I am an earth sign. So the aura that I put out, the energy that I put out was Capricorn or earth sign energy. So that's kind of what those mean. And then you have more. You have your Venus, you have your Mars, and those like encompass who you are as a person as well.
So how long did it take you to kind of just understand like all these different factors of astrology. Like, although you've realized it since you were little, you know, your mom had it around, you grew up on a little bit, but I feel like there's been so much more coming out about it. Like, so how do you learn that, or do you just learn it on the daily as things go on?
I think in life, where regardless of what your craft is, you should constantly be learning
Right.
every single day. Whatever it is, whether you're a singer, writer, dancer, you should be learning, willing to learn about anything that you're doing. So I can say that each and every day I'm researching astrology things, I'm researching, bettering my craft. So I don't want to say I'm like 100% knowledgeable. I am knowledgeable about astrology, but again, there's always just so much that you can learn. But I think my real deep research started maybe high school, when I just got more into things, like when I got more into, you know, your big three, when I got more into your kind of degrees and stuff like that in astrology, when I got more into your charts, that's where it really sparked. The heavy devotion really came about when LZB was a thing, because I'm like, okay, at first it was a little hobby. I guess now I'm trying to make this into something. So that's where I constantly, you know, try to get more education. I'm constantly buying books. I'm constantly reaching out to other astrologers, constantly just trying to find new things about astrology that I probably never knew, or try to grow on. So yeah, I'm always learning, but I think my heavy research came within like toward the latter years of my high school years.
So you mentioned that you went to a palm reader, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She was like a tarot reader.
Right. So when you, because some people would think that's some people would consider it demonic, but it's very like it's a separate spirituality. So tell me about that when it comes to astrology. Like, compare the two, because some people will be like, oh no, like I don't believe in that because it has nothing to do with the God that I worship, or the spiritual being that I, you know, worship. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
So again, I'm constantly learning, and within me learning about astrology, I also learn about other forms of spirituality. So I'm also getting into tarot readings myself. And within that, I think a lot of people need to kind of go back into the history of our people, regardless, like our ancestors and things, because they had spiritual practices in which, you know, they were honoring their ancestors, but they definitely still worship God, you know. So it's just ways in which you do it to where I don't put anything or anyone over God. And I know that's me. And I know my relationship with God. I know I'm very much a spiritual person. I know I very much so have a relationship with God. I hold that near and dear to my heart. But I also come from a household where my father is Muslim and my mother is Christian. So I've always had a respect and understanding for other religions, other forms of spirituality, other forms of praise. And this is kind of how I am. I never really looked at any of them as wrong or you shouldn't be doing that. So I don't fault people for thinking, you know, oh, that's not right, or you shouldn't be doing that, because you only know what you know, you know. So I don't fault them for doing that. I just know for me, I don't put anyone over God. I don't put anything over God. I am involved in astrology, but I do believe in God. So I don't take that as any type of, you know, demonic activity. I don't partake in that. So I want just people to realize, like, there are forms of spirituality in which you do give praise and worship to God and Jesus, or wherever you may believe, and you still, you know, are a spiritual person. So
your blog basically discusses a lot of personality traits when it comes to each sign, and dating is definitely a big factor on that. So let's talk about the various different signs and what it's like dating them. So let's start with Aquarius.
Okay. So with any sign, especially when they're a woman or a man, they're going to be similarities, but also extreme differences, just because naturally women are more emotional. So any of the traits that an Aquarius will have will be the same, but more emotional in a woman's perspective. So Aquarius, everyone views them as nonchalant, pretty just straightforward. People, it's like Twitter always tries to go on Aquarius men and say they're the devil because they don't, you know, give you any attention, and they'll just leave you and ghost you and stuff like that. And I can say, I mean, I personally, my boyfriend is an Aquarius. So it's like I see him, but I don't see him like Twitter tries to see him. But again, that comes from his overall chart. Like, for instance,
Right.
his Venus is in Capricorn. So, and my Venus is in Cancer. And by the way, for those who don't know, Venus is pretty much how you love or what you love. So that is like the sign that depends, that is really geared toward your emotions.
Okay.
So our Venus signs are sister signs. Well, they're compatible pretty much. So our love is more Capricorn and Cancer rather than Aquarius and Leo.
Okay.
So anywho, Aquarius men, people always call them nonchalant. People always say that they're mean when they're really not mean. They're just very straightforward with things. They don't really care for the emotional side of things. They're kind of like logic based. They're very fair. I can say that Aquarius really tries to find the balance between things. They're really focused on humanitarianism. So meaning they always want to better the world. They're always trying to do projects that's going to benefit everyone more than themselves. They don't really need the credit for things. They're more behind the scenes type people. They're very creative. And that is really what really what covers an Aquarius. So I love Aquarius, actually. So yeah.
And so the next sign would be Pisces. So I'm dating a Pisces, so I kind of want to know, like, what's the tea?
Okay. So Pisces get the rep for being the emotional sign. And Pisces are very intuitive, which means they pretty much know what's going to happen before it's going to happen. But that also comes with a downfall because they get caught in their head a lot and stuck in their emotions a lot. So a lot of times they make a situation out of no situation because they think it's going to be a situation. So that's kind of how Pisces are. Pisces men are less emotional than the women, but they're still emotional on that aspect. They're very good lovers. They really like to treat the person that they're with love and show them the world. And they really just pour their heart out to people. But Pisces can be a little, petty. They can be a little, like you don't really want to do a Pisces wrong, but that's really any water sign, to be honest. But Pisces can definitely be a little petty a little bit, but Pisces are good signs overall.
So what about Pisces women?
Pisces women. So again, Pisces women, being that it is any water signs as a whole, are emotional.
Okay.
And so add a woman onto that, it's like 10 times worse.
Oh my
So
God.
Pisces women are very emotional. Pisces as a whole kind of tend to self-sabotage a bit, only because again they think they're gonna know what happens before it happens, so they try to prevent it from happening, or they just get stuck in their head. So that's kind of where that falls in. But Pisces women, again, like the men, are great lovers. They're great friends. They're very devoted. Again, petty, but they really want to devote their all to people. They can be sneaky. They can try to hide some things. They can be a little deceiving, only because they do kind of struggle with their own internal thoughts and feelings. So they try to block that off to the world. So they can be a little bit deceiving, a little bit, sneaky, but overall, they're still good people.
All right. And the next sign, Aries.
Aries. So again, I personally love Aries because my moon sign is Aries. My friends are Aries. Like, I love Aries. But Aries are quote unquote aggressive. They're quote unquote mean, but they're really just passionate. Aries are very straightforward, very to the point. There's really no point for the chitter chatter for them. They're like, okay, so get to the point. That's how Aries are. But deep down, Aries are very emotional, which people don't really understand. Their feelings definitely get hurt, but they try to close that off and block that off by asserting more aggression, when in reality they're just hurt. To be honest. Aries women definitely cannot be, or any fire sign really cannot be with anyone who she feels like she can run over. She definitely needs that person to take charge, more traditional roles. They don't like to be kind of restricted. They like to run free. They like to have fun. They like to do what they want to do, but they want their partner to be there, and just their partner in crime, really, just somebody who they could cause havoc with, because they will, but someone who could tell her about herself at the same
time. Okay. All right. And Taurus, their sign kind of throws me off. Well, the actual like logo for their sign. Like, tell me about Taurus.
Taurus are people, first word people are going to say is that they're stubborn, but I like to rephrase that. They're just really headstrong. They're pretty sure of themselves, and what they say pretty much goes. They're very sure in themselves and their craft. Whatever they do, they don't really like to be told that they're wrong in that aspect. So Taurus do have sometimes of a hard time receiving criticism from others. Excuse me. But Taurus are kind of materialistic, but not materialistic in the point of, oh, I got to get me a Gucci bag all the time. They're more so materialistic in the point of, I want what I want when I want it, pretty much. So they're going to kind of do what they can in order to make sure that they live a lifestyle that they have. They don't really try to settle for less. And that's the hardworking Taurus for you.
So what is the difference in terms of dating when it comes to the men and women for Taurus?
So with women Taurus can be, in this situation, sometimes the men Taurus are kind of more emotional than the woman Taurus. Not outward emotional, like they're going to break down and cry, but more so in a relationship, the Taurus man is more giving and more willing to put his emotions out there than the Taurus woman. The Taurus man is pretty traditional in his relationship. He really wants to be that man that takes care of his woman. He wants to be that man that, you know, kind of like that ideal white picket fence, wife, dog. He really wants to create that household for him and his family. And the Taurus woman wants to be able to do that too, but she's cool with doing it on her own. She's very independent. She does want a partner, and she's willing to allow her partner to be her partner, her man to be her man. But she is very good and very sure that she can do it on her own. She has a great sex appeal. Taurus women are ruled by Venus, and Venus is the planet of love and beauty. So, you know, they have no problem getting attention from people. But in that situation, the Taurus man is more willing to give himself because he wants to, you know, prove to you that, like, I am the Taurus man. So that's how they're different in the relationship aspect.
And let's get into Gemini. So I've always heard negative things about Geminis. Like, I've never heard any good thing about them, like, at all. So, like, give me the details. Like, I need to know. I want to understand, like, why do people not like them so much?
The reason why people do not like Geminis, I feel like, because they get the rep that they're crazy and two-faced, and they have two different sides, which is half true. Like, they could say something to you, and then the next day they'll completely forget it because they're just all over the place. But Geminis are really not that bad of a sign. They're very intellectual. They have a lot of things going up in their heads, so they know a lot of things. They're probably not well-versed in a lot of things, but they know very small, random, interesting facts about themselves. So, yeah, Geminis are pretty cool. I think we would just chill off on Geminis. They're actually not that bad of a person. They're just a little, you just be like, okay, friend, you look crazy, but it's fine. But Geminis are pretty cool.
So what suggestions you have in terms of dating a Gemini? Because some people like crazy and some people don't. So
right. I think that's a great question. Yeah. I think my advice for dating the Gemini is you have to be sure of yourself. And that's my advice in any relationship, period. But with the Gemini, you definitely have to be sure of yourself because they are natural conversationalists. So they might just go out and meet someone and start talking. And if you're insecure, you're like, well, you was flirting with blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, I was just having a conversation. So one, you definitely have to be sure of yourself. You have to be patient. You have to be patient with a Gemini because they don't even know what's going on half the time. So you're going to have to deal with them going through the motions, going through their mood swings, because they're going to have them. You have to not get so caught up in your feelings that you're like, well, he don't want to talk to me, so I'm not going to talk to him. You can't be that way. You have to kind of let it rock out. If they need their space, give them their space, and they'll come back like nothing ever happened. And if that's cool with you, then that's fine. You'll work out with a Gemini. If not, then don't even do it to yourself.
And so Cancer, I've heard Cancers are very emotional. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Cancers are very emotional. And again, emotional doesn't necessarily mean outward crying every time someone says something. Emotional just kind of means like your temperament, how you deal with certain things. Do you deal with things in a more emotional aspect and a more, educational aspect, intellectual aspect?
Mhm.
what, how you're dealing with it. So Cancers deal things more with their emotions. Any situation is guided by their emotions. So again, they're not outwardly crying, but their feelings get hurt, and they get upset. And so their reaction is based on emotional action. They're always going to react off emotion rather than intellect, rather than, not saying that they're dumb, but rather than thinking things through, they're going to be like, how did this make me feel? This made me feel this way, so I'm going to react this way.
This way. Right.
Yeah, so my brother's a Cancer girl. I've been dealing with that all my life.
Oh my gosh. So let's get into Leos. They seem very not narcissistic, but all about them. Like I know the
Mhm.
sign is like a lion.
Mhm.
So they're like very like on top, like,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So let's like tell me more about that and like what it's like dating that type of sign.
Okay, so I'm not trying to be biased, so I'm going to try to give a non-biased opinion of Leos. But again, like you said, great point that the sign for Leo is a lion. Lion represents bravery, it represents strength. Um, so when you see a lion, you see someone who, well, you see a lion. You see an animal who's literally overpowering, big, bold, walking confidently, not fearless. I mean, yeah, not fearful of anything.
Mhm.
And that kind of what embodies the Leo in a sense. Not trying to, brag on my sign, but Leos are very confident. Leos are very sure of themselves, but the actuality of the situation is that, deep down, Leos have insecurities. There are things that we are insecure about, which can be masked by our constant need to, kind of dominate in a sense.
Mhm.
So Leos are very dominating. Leos are very confident. Leos are very strong, very sure of themselves. That's pretty much what Leo is. So again, if you're planning on dating a Leo, you really have to be willing to validate their emotions, I would say. Not really knock them off their pedestal. Leos really need someone who's going to give them praise. Not that they need it because they're insecure, more so they need it because they need their partner to feel the same way they feel about themselves.
Okay.
So constant validation, praise, acknowledgement. A lot of Leos' love language is physical touch or words of affirmation. So if you're dating a Leo, then those are probably two things you really need to get involved in because they just love affection. They're very
Right.
warm people. So yeah, that's what a Leo is. Great sign, by the way. Okay, so Virgos are pretty closed off. They're pretty closed off sign. People kind of see. That's another thing Twitter says. Twitter also says that Virgo men are the devil. So Twitter
Mhm.
doesn't be saying anything, but they're very closed off, and that's because again they act more intellectually. They're also ruled by Mercury, so they think more than act on emotion. Virgo men can be closed off, but they're definitely willing to do anything for that woman that they love. It takes that special one, and he might have to go through a few special ones, but he's going to find that one that he really feels devoted for. Money is really not an option for a Virgo man. Like, it's nothing to him. A Virgo woman, again, is going to be closed off, but she really does want that love. It's going to be difficult for her to find it because, again, she's closed off, but she wants people to peel back their layers, but she doesn't want people to get too close to her. So
Right.
she's a very complicated individual, but she's very emotional deep down inside. But it just takes that one person to really find that within her. They're very loving. They're very no questions asked type of people. Virgo
Mhm.
make great friends because they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do it. It don't even matter what's up. They're very down to ride type of people. So that's what the Virgo is.
Okay. And what about my personal favorite, the best signs, in my opinion, Libras.
um, but Libras are great, honestly. Libras are people. They can really get along with anybody. But within that, Libras still do enjoy their alone time. But they really do love people. Some Libras cannot be by themselves relationship wise, though. You will find Libras involved in a lot of situationships because they, love to have that companionship, but they also like to do what they want to do, but they also want to be in love, but they also don't want nobody to tell them what to do.
You.
So that's what a Libra is. Again, they're people. Leos get a rep for being egotistical, but Libras low key be feeling themselves too. Libras really be like, girl, what? I'm the shit. Like, what do you think? So Libras definitely feel themselves as well, but that's just that confidence. Libras are also ruled by Venus, which again I said is the planet of beauty and love. So they do have that, innate sex appeal as well. It's not really, I gotta strip down to make everybody notice me. It's just a type of aura that they have that really just grabs people and has their attention. To date a Libra, again, I would say definitely be sure of yourself because they don't like anyone that's not confident. And that is definitely a turn off to them. And they also are natural flirts. They don't really know what's happening, but they're natural flirts. So if you're going to date a Libra, you can't really be insecure. You can't be questioning them 24/7 because they get completely turned off by that.
Yeah, I agree with the natural flirting thing. I've gotten like I didn't even notice I was doing it, and people were like, will start flirting back, or they'll say something. I'm like, I don't like you. Like what? I was
Right. I wasn't giving you that vibe, friend. What's going
yeah,
on?
exactly. So I had to like learn how to pull that back a little bit, or just be more aware, so that I don't give off that vibe. Yeah, that's
Right.
definitely true. And so let's talk about Scorpios.
Scorpios, another water sign. Scorpios are, I don't know why people try to fake on Scorpios like that, but Scorpios are loving people as well. They can be very sneaky. They can be very conniving, but it's more so because they don't trust people like a lot. So they kind of are constantly protecting themselves because they really just don't trust people. So when you cross a Scorpio, especially when they have devoted themselves to you, like best believe they're gonna get you back. Like they are going to make sure that you feel their hurt. But all in all, Scorpios are great, loving people. They want to give their all in a relationship. They're very intense. So in a relationship, they can, if you're not really the type of person that likes clingy people, if you're not the type of person that wants someone up under you 24/7 or really checking on you 24/7, I don't recommend being with a Scorpio because they are very intense in their relationships. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people really love that. Some people really need the affection that Scorpios give out. So that's how dating a Scorpio is.
And then next one is a Sagittarius.
Yes. So Sagittarius, a fire sign. Sagittarius are very optimistic. Sometimes they're not as optimistic toward themselves as they are to other people, but they are very optimistic. They have big goals for themselves, and they're like, I'm gonna make a way out of no way. It doesn't matter. Sagittarius are fire signs, like I said, so they are impulsive sometimes. They don't really think things through all the time. They kind of just go out and do it, whether that be travel. They're really good on travel, but whether that be travel or decision making or like, I just want to get a boat today. They're going to do it because they're just that impulsive. They really don't think a lot of things through. And you become more, depending on what your chart is, if you have like more earth in your chart, you probably will think things through as a Sagittarius. But the true Sagittarius just kind of let things flow, and they're really all about excitement and enjoying the wonders of the world.
Okay. And the last sign, which is a Capricorn?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Capricorn.
So Capricorn are an earth sign. They're very hardworking. Capricorns work, 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 work. They're all about getting a bag. They're all about making a name for themselves. They are not complacent people, whatsoever. They're really focused on just, again, they can have that materialistic aspect like a Taurus, but it's coming from a place of, I'm going to get what I want when I want it, and nobody's going to stop me. They can be a little crazy sometimes, just a little bit, but all in all, they're good people. They can devote themselves in their relationship. What they're in is really whatever you need. It's not a question. They're going to do it. They're very devoted. They're very reliable, extremely reliable. Whatever you need, a Capricorn is going to do it. Depending on your relationship, they can be just a tad bit selfish, just because, it's like, I don't know. It's more so of a trust thing. Like, can I really trust you? So I'm going to just kind of test the waters a little bit.
Right.
They can get caught up in their emotions sometimes, but if you have a Capricorn's heart, you have everything because they'll literally just give it to you.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then, so one more question that I have is, you've mentioned like water sign, fire sign, earth signs. Like, how is that arranged? Like, how do you know what sign goes to what?
Okay. So for the fire signs, you have Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. For water signs, You have Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer for earth signs. You have Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus. And lastly, for air signs, I didn't go in order, but air signs, you have Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And a lot of people think that Aquarius are water signs because their sign is the water bearer, but they're air signs. So what your element is kind of dictates the traits that you have, the overarching traits that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So fire signs, if you think of fire, you think of loud, aggressive, it can spread, you see fire and you will see and notice and hear a fire sign because fire signs are loud, honey. And then if you think of earth, you think of groundedness. So when you think of your Taurus, your Capricorns, you think of people who are very grounded, people who are very stuck in their ways, people who are very, just sedimentary, pretty much. And when you think of air signs, you think of people, you think of air, you think of people who just go with the flow. You think of, you can't really hold them down. They just kind of move wherever they go. Those are air signs. And water signs, naturally, with the moon and the ocean, you think of emotions. Water in general is based on emotion. So all water signs are emotional. So it's like every other sign, not every other sign, but then when you go in order of the signs, so for instance, it starts with Aries,
Mm-hmm.
then it goes to Taurus, then it goes to Gemini, then it goes to Cancer. And then it just starts back over. So every 4 starts the new element.
Okay, that's good. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I wanted to add that I really enjoyed this interview. Thank you for having me. You can follow my page at Lil Zodiac Blog on Instagram. And we have a lot of exciting things coming. I really think, people should take an in-depth look at astrology. Astrology is something that is more than just compatibility, but it can, influence your life in a bit, tell you more about yourself, even if you don't really need it. Again, I just think it's something that you should be interested in just to get a little interest in what your life may be. So yeah, that's my love for astrology. And again, follow me at Lil Zodiac Blog on Instagram.
And so one last question, what should we look forward to in the upcoming, months or years when it comes to your blog? Because you've made enormous progress in the amount of time that you've already had Lil Zodiac Blog. So what's next? I know you came out with the necklaces and stuff like
yes.
that. Can I get a little sneak peek, a little something?
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. But yes, we came out with our necklaces. We just came out with our anklets. We have hair clips. There are some more little goodies coming in store, but honestly, I never would, again, like I said, I never thought Lil Zodiac Blog was going to be what it is now. And we have a lot more things content-wise that you guys should be looking forward to. You'll probably see my face a little bit more. So instead of me hiding behind Instagram posts, you'll probably see that a little more. I can't give you too much, but that's just a little snippet. So expect more little goodies and more, content-driven things coming
soon. Yay. All right. So thank you so much for joining me on Good Vibes with Yaya. I really appreciate it. And make sure all of you guys follow Lil Zodiac Blog on Instagram. Thanks, guys. Hey, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to Good Vibes with Yaya. If there's a topic that you want us to discuss or know someone that will be a great guest for our show, make sure you follow us and DM us on Instagram at Good Vibes with Yaya or send us an email at goodvibeswithyaya@gmail.com.